When the massive Galactic Council ships appeared over Earth in 2037, the whole world stopped and looked up. TV broadcasts cut out, phones buzzed with emergency alerts, and crowds gathered in streets everywhere, staring at the sky with a mix of fear and wonder. Dr. Kim was having coffee in her university office when it happened. The cup slipped from her fingers, shattering on the floor as she saw the news alert. As Earth's leading xenolinguist, she had spent her career preparing for this moment, though she never truly believed it would come during her lifetime. "They're requesting communication," said her assistant, bursting through the door. "The President is asking for you specifically." Within hours, Dr. Kim found herself in a hastily assembled command center, surrounded by military personnel, scientists, and government officials. The air was thick with tension as she worked to decode the strange patterns being transmitted from the alien vessels. "I think I've got something," she said, after 18 straight hours of work. Her voice was hoarse from exhaustion. "It's not just random signals. There's a pattern that repeats like they're trying to teach us their language." 3 days later, when Dr. Kim finally established a basic communication protocol, the world learned the visitors called themselves the Myriad beings, who communicated primarily through telepathy, but had developed technologies to interface with non-linked species like humans. The first face-to-face meeting happened on neutral ground, a platform constructed in international waters. Dr. Kim led the human delegation, her heart pounding as the alien craft descended. When the Myriad emerged, they weren't what anyone expected. Tall, graceful beings with iridescent skin that seemed to shift colors with their emotions. They moved with fluid grace that made them appear almost like they were floating. "We welcome Earth to the greater community," the lead representative communicated, the words appearing in everyone's minds rather than being spoken aloud. "You are the 217th species to join our council." In the months that followed, the world changed dramatically. The Myriad shared incredible technologies, medical advances that cured diseases thought incurable, energy systems that could power entire cities without pollution, agricultural methods that could grow food in deserts. Cancer became treatable with a simple injection. Climate change began to reverse as carbon capture systems cleaned the atmosphere. For the first time in human history, wars ceased globally as nations worked together to integrate with the galactic community. Dr. Kim became the unofficial ambassador to the Myriad, working closely with them to establish Earth's first extraterrestrial embassy. "They seem genuinely interested in helping us," she told the United Nations Security Council. "They've shared more technology in 6 months than we might have developed in a century." But not everyone was convinced. General Park, recently retired from military service, watched the developments with growing concern. He had spent his career analyzing threats, and something about the situation didn't sit right with him. "They're giving us just enough to make us dependent," he told a small group of trusted colleagues who met in his home, well away from any technology that might be monitored. "Have you noticed they never share weapons technology, or anything that would help us travel beyond our solar system?" While most of humanity embraced their new galactic neighbors, General Park quietly assembled a team of scientists, engineers, and security experts who shared his concerns. They worked in secret, studying the alien technology not just to use it, but to understand how it functioned at its core. "We need to be prepared," he insisted, "just in case." For 5 years, Earth flourished under the guidance of the Galactic Council. Poverty began to disappear as energy and food became abundant. Lifespans extended as medical technology advanced. Children born after first contact grew up learning about alien cultures alongside human history. Dr. Kim's role expanded as Earth was invited to send representatives to the Council's central station, a massive structure orbiting a distant star. She led the first human delegation, traveling farther from Earth than any human had before. The central station was a marvel, home to representatives from hundreds of species. Some looked almost human, while others were so alien that Dr. Kim struggled to comprehend their physical form, yet all seemed to coexist peacefully under the Council's guidance. "This is everything we dreamed of," she wrote in her journal. "Proof that advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves, that there's a path forward for humanity." Meanwhile, on Earth, General Park's secret group had grown. They had managed to reverse engineer several pieces of Myriad technology and were making progress, understanding the principles behind them. They operated under the guise of a private research foundation, careful to avoid attracting attention from either human authorities or their alien visitors. "Something's coming," General Park told his inner circle as they reviewed data from deep space monitoring stations they had secretly built. "The Myriad are watching something out there, and they're worried. Whatever it is, we need to be ready." As the 5th anniversary of First Contact approached, celebrations were planned worldwide. Earth had been transformed, and most humans viewed their alien benefactors with gratitude and trust. No one suspected that everything was about to change, or that humanity would soon face its greatest test since emerging from caves and looking up at the stars. The first warning came from the Deep Space Observatory in Chile. It was just past midnight when Dr. Song's computer pinged with an alert. He'd been dozing at his desk, a half-eaten sandwich and cold coffee forgotten beside him. The alert jolted him awake. "That can't be right," he muttered, adjusting his glasses, as he stared at the screen. The observatory had detected something massive moving through space, something that shouldn't be there. By morning, observatories around the world had confirmed it. Something was heading toward our solar system. Something big. Dr. Kim was called into an emergency meeting with government officials and Myriad representatives. The room was tense, faces grim as satellite images displayed on the large screen. "What exactly are we looking at?" asked the president, her voice steady despite the obvious concern in her eyes. The Myriad representative's skin had dulled to a deep blue, a color Dr. Kim had never seen them display before. "It is called the Void Swarm," the alien communicated, directly into their minds. A sentient hive consciousness that consumes everything in its path. The room fell silent. Dr. Kim felt her chest tighten. "How long do we have?" she finally asked. 8 months, perhaps less. News of the approaching threat was kept from the public, while emergency meetings were held at the highest levels. Dr. Kim was among those sent to the Galactic Council's central station to formally request assistance. The journey took 2 weeks. In the Myriad's fastest transport ship, Dr. Kim spent most of it preparing her appeal to the Council. Humanity was still new to the galactic community, but surely the Council wouldn't abandon them to face this threat alone. The Council chamber was enormous, a vast circular space with thousands of seats arranged in rising tiers around a central platform. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber, their murmurs creating a strange symphony of clicks, whistles, and rumbles. Dr. Kim stood on the central platform, feeling impossibly small. She spoke clearly, her voice amplified throughout the chamber. "Earth comes before the Council to request aid against the approaching Void Swarm. We are a young species in your community, but we have embraced your guidance and friendship. We ask now for your protection in our hour of need." The silence that followed was deafening. Then the Council leader, a tall, willowy being with 4 arms and skin like polished silver, rose to speak. "The Council has already deliberated on this matter," the leader's voice echoed through Dr. Kim's mind. "Earth has been assessed and found too resource-intensive to defend against this particular threat. Your technological development is still in its early stages, making your world—" There was a pause. "Evolutionarily expendable." Dr. Kim couldn't believe what she was hearing. Expendable? There are billions of living beings on Earth. The Council regrets this necessity, but resources must be allocated where they will do the most good for the greatest number of advanced civilizations. This is the way it has always been. Back on Earth, General Park's worst fears were being confirmed. His team had intercepted communications between Myriad ships, indicating a planned withdrawal. "They're going to leave us to die," he told his team, gathered in their underground facility. Just as I suspected they might. True to his prediction, the Myriad began departing Earth within days of Dr. Kim's return. Their ships rose silently into the sky, taking with them most of the advanced technology they had shared. When Dr. Kim confronted the last remaining Myriad representative, the alien's skin had turned a dull gray. "It is the Council's decision," the Myriad communicated, a strange sensation of regret coloring the telepathic message. We cannot oppose it. You've lived among us for 5 years, Dr. Kim replied, her voice breaking. You've shared our food, our music, our lives. How can you abandon us now? The myriad didn't answer directly. Instead, it handed her a small device. This contains information that might help. It is all I can offer. That night, the last myriad ships disappeared from Earth's skies. By morning, the public knew everything. Panic erupted in cities worldwide. Stock markets crashed. Religious leaders proclaimed the end times. Some people barricaded themselves in bunkers, while others took to the streets in protest, as if the uncaring cosmos might be swayed by their signs and chants. In this darkest moment, something unexpected happened. Humanity did not collapse into chaos as many had feared. Instead, a strange calm began to settle, a determination. "If we're going to die," said an old woman interviewed on the news, "we're going to die fighting." General Park emerged from the shadows, revealing the secret work his team had been doing. "We've been preparing for something like this," he told world leaders gathered in emergency session. "We've reverse-engineered some of their technology. It's not much, but it's a start." Dr. Kim presented the device the myriad had given her. It contained detailed information about the Void Swarm, its composition, behavior patterns, and potential weaknesses. "They didn't completely abandon us," she said quietly. "At least one of them tried to help." Scientists worldwide began working around the clock. The device revealed that the swarm was not invincible. It was a collective of smaller entities bound by a shared consciousness. Disrupt that consciousness, and the swarm might be defeated. Earth had less than 8 months to prepare. Every factory was converted to produce components for weapons and shields. Space agencies around the world pooled their resources to build orbital defense platforms. Children practiced evacuation drills, while their parents worked double shifts in research labs and assembly plants. "We may be evolutionarily expendable to them," the president said in a global address that was translated into every language, "but we have something the Council seems to have forgotten: the will to survive against all odds. That's what humans do best." As humanity prepared for the coming storm, Dr. Kim often found herself looking up at the stars. The same stars that had once filled her with wonder now hid a terrible threat. Yet she felt something else too, a fierce pride in her species. Abandoned by those they had trusted, humanity had not given up. They would face the Void Swarm alone, and somehow they would find a way to survive. The day after the myriad ships vanished from Earth's skies, world leaders gathered in Geneva. There were no flags behind them at the press conference, just a simple black backdrop with a new symbol, a blue planet with a shield. The message was clear: Earth stood alone but united. "Today we activate the Unity Protocol," announced the Secretary General, her voice steady despite the dark circles under her eyes. "All borders are temporarily suspended. All resources will be shared. All scientific knowledge will be pooled. We have one enemy, and we face it as one people." It was a plan that would have seemed impossible just years before: nations surrendering sovereignty, militaries combining forces, corporations opening their patents and research. But fear is a powerful motivator, and so is hope. Within days, the largest scientific collaboration in human history was underway. Research centers were established on every continent, connected by a new communications network, cobbled together from remaining alien tech and human ingenuity. Commander Lee, formerly of the South Korean Air Force, was appointed to lead the global defense initiative from the newly constructed orbital platform Aegis. At 42, she had a reputation for both brilliant strategy and unwavering calm under pressure. Both would be tested in the months ahead. "I need our best people up here," she said during her first video conference from orbit. The Aegis was still half built around her, sparks flying as workers rushed to complete the station. "And I need them yesterday." Down on Earth, the device the myriad had secretly given Dr. Kim proved invaluable. It contained not just information about the Void Swarm, but fragments of technical data about myriad defensive systems. "It's not complete," Dr. Kim explained to the international science team assembled in what had once been CERN's main facility. "But it's enough to give us a starting point." In Brazil, Dr. Choi had been studying myriad energy systems for years. A quiet man who preferred working alone, he found himself suddenly thrust into leadership of a team of thousands. The myriad shields operate on principles similar to our own electromagnetic fields, but on a quantum level, he explained during a global briefing. His voice was soft, and people leaned forward to hear him. If we can adapt our nuclear reactors to generate these fields, we might be able to create a planetary shield. It seemed impossible, but then again, 6 months earlier, so had the idea of aliens visiting Earth. In the Gobi Desert, what had once been a small research station transformed into an enormous construction site. Engineers worked day and night, building massive pulse cannons designed to target the swarm's neural clusters, the closest thing to a brain that the hive mind possessed. "We have one advantage," General Park told his international team as they reviewed simulations. "The swarm has never encountered humans before. It won't know what to expect from us." Around the world, ordinary people found their own ways to contribute. Farmers donated land for new facilities. Retired engineers and scientists came out of retirement. Students left school to work in factories producing components for the defense systems. A grandmother in Tokyo opened her small restaurant to feed workers building a shield generator. A teacher in Lagos rewrote physics textbooks to help new recruits understand the alien technology. A plumber in Buenos Aires figured out how to adapt his city's water system to cool the massive computers running defense simulations. Not everything went smoothly. Old rivalries flared under the pressure. Resources were stretched thin. In some places, panic led to hoarding and violence. But for every story of humanity's worst instincts, there were 10 of its best. Former enemies worked side by side. Rich and poor shared what they had. When a tsunami struck the Philippines, threatening a key research facility, volunteers from 30 nations rushed to help. "We're not just fighting for survival," Dr. Kim said during a rare interview. The reporter noted how thin she had become, how her hands trembled with exhaustion. "We're fighting to prove the Council wrong about us, to show that being young doesn't make us expendable." 4 months after the myriad departed, Dr. Choi's team achieved their first breakthrough. They successfully generated a small quantum shield that held for 30 seconds before collapsing. "It's not enough," he said, staring at the smoking equipment. "But it's progress." In orbit, the Aegis station took shape, a sprawling structure of modules and weapon systems that would serve as humanity's first line of defense. Commander Lee rarely slept more than 4 hours a night, dividing her time between overseeing construction and training the international crew. "We'll have one chance," she told them during drills. "Just one. We make it count." On Earth, governments maintained a delicate balance, preparing their populations for the worst while nurturing hope. Underground shelters were constructed, but so were memorial parks and time capsules. People were encouraged to record messages for future generations, whether human or alien, who might one day find a devastated Earth. "If we fall," said the message buried beneath the new Unity Monument in Nairobi, "know that we stood together." As the months passed, the impossible slowly became possible. Dr. Choi's team successfully generated a shield that covered a small city. The pulse cannons in the Gobi fired successfully during tests, their energy beams visible from space. The Aegis station was completed, its weapons armed and ready. 6 months to the day after the myriad left, humanity was as ready as it could be. Long-range sensors detected the void swarm crossing the orbit of Jupiter, right on schedule. Commander Lee addressed her crew on the Aegis, their faces reflecting the same mix of fear and determination she felt. "Whatever happens next," she said, "we face it together, not as Americans or Russians or Chinese, but as humans. On Earth, people gathered with loved ones. Some prayed, some drank, some simply held each other in silence. In town squares around the world, massive screens showed the swarm's approach. Dr. Kim stood with General Park at the main control center in Geneva, watching as the enemy drew closer. 5 months of working together had turned the former adversaries into reluctant allies, perhaps even friends. "Do you think we have a chance?" she asked quietly. The old general considered this for a moment. "The Council underestimated us," he finally said. "Let's hope the swarm does too." As the first tendrils of the Void Swarm entered Earth's orbit, Dr. Choi gave the order. Around the world, the shield generators hummed to life. A shimmering blue bubble began to form around the planet, humanity's last, best hope against the darkness that had come to consume them. For the first time in human history, every nation worked toward a single goal: survival. It began as a shadow across the stars. People on the night side of Earth watched as familiar constellations blinked out one by one. The Void Swarm didn't arrive as ships or creatures. It came as darkness itself, a living cloud that devoured light. On the Aegis station, Commander Lee stood motionless before the viewport, watching as the blackness spread. Behind her, the command center buzzed with controlled panic as officers reported in from their stations. "Shield status?" she asked, her voice betraying none of the fear she felt. "Holding at 98%, replied her second-in-command, "but the swarm hasn't really attacked yet, it's just watching." On Earth, Dr. Choi monitored the planetary shield from the main control center. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the room's cool temperature. The shield was drawing more power than they had anticipated. Already the global energy grid was straining to keep up. "We need to reduce power to non-essential areas," he said. "Divert everything to the shield generators." Across the planet, cities went dark as power was redirected. In homes and shelters, people lit candles and chemical lights, huddling together. In the darkness, a grandmother in Mexico City told old stories to distract frightened children. A doctor in Cairo performed surgery by flashlight. A family in Mumbai sang songs to drown out the constant hum of the shield generators that rattled their windows. The waiting ended at dawn. The swarm attacked without warning, millions of smaller entities breaking off from the main mass and hurling themselves at the shield. Where they touched it, the blue energy flared bright white. "They're testing for weaknesses," General Park said, watching the tactical displays in Geneva, like wolves circling a campfire. For the first few hours, the shield held. Humanity dared to hope. Then the first breach came, a small failure over the Pacific Ocean, where 3 shield generators had overheated and shut down. Through the gap poured tendrils of the swarm, black against the blue sky. The pulse cannons fired immediately, their energy beams cutting through the invaders. For every tendril destroyed, 3 more pushed through. "Sector 7 is compromised," reported Dr. Choi, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to reroute power to reinforce the shield. "Hey, we're losing ground." In orbit, Commander Lee made a decision. "Launch all fighters," she ordered. "Target the breach." Fighter squadrons scrambled from the Aegis and from bases around the world. They were a strange mix. Conventional jets retrofitted with alien tech, piloted by men and women who had been enemies just months before. "Remember your training," Commander Lee's voice came through their comms as they approached the breach. "Hit and run, don't let them surround you." The fighters tore into the invading tendrils, their modified weapons effective against the smaller swarm entities. But the main cluster remained intact, hovering just beyond the shield, probing for more weaknesses. Hour by hour, the shield failed in more places. The pulse cannons destroyed many of the smaller entities, but it wasn't enough. The swarm was adapting, learning from each encounter. In the Geneva Control Center, General Park watched grimly as red warning lights spread across the global map. "We need a new strategy," he said. "Fighting them like this, we're just buying time." Dr. Kim had been quiet for hours, reviewing the data from the Myriad device, searching for anything they might have missed. Something about the swarm's behavior nagged at her. "They're communicating," she suddenly said, looking up. "Not just acting as a hive mind, actively communicating. There's a pattern to it." She focused on the frequencies being emitted by the swarm. These quantum oscillations, they're similar to human brainwaves, not identical but in the same spectrum. In orbit, the Aegis station took a direct hit as a massive swarm tendril slammed into it. The structure shuddered, emergency alerts blaring through every compartment. "Hull breach in sections 4 through 7, reported an officer, blood streaming from a cut on her forehead. "We've lost 30% of our weapons systems." Commander Lee steadied herself against a console. "Evacuate the damaged sections. Reroute emergency power to life support and the remaining weapons." She opened a channel to Earth. "Control, this is Aegis. We're heavily damaged but still operational. What's the status downside?" The news wasn't good. Swarm entities had made landfall on 3 continents. The ground forces were engaging them with some success, but casualties were mounting. In some areas, the entities were absorbing technology, growing more dangerous with each encounter. If they reached the shield generators, General Park didn't need to finish the thought. As systems failed around her on the crippled Aegis station, Dr. Kim's mind raced. If the swarm communicated on frequencies similar to human brainwaves, perhaps that offered an opportunity. "I need to broadcast on their frequency," she told General Park. "Not just data, I want to send them everything, our history, our culture, our emotions." "What good will that do?" he asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "But they're a hive mind. They think as one. Human consciousness is messy, contradictory. We feel fear and courage simultaneously. We hate and love. We're selfish and selfless. What if all that complexity is incomprehensible to them?" It was a desperate plan, but they had run out of alternatives. Dr. Kim set to work, compiling what would amount to a complete download of human experience: art, music, literature, scientific knowledge, personal stories, raw emotional data from volunteers connected to neural interfaces. Everything that made humanity what it was. As she worked, the situation grew increasingly dire. The shield was failing sector by sector. The Aegis station lost communication with Earth as a swarm tendril severed their main transmitter. Fighter squadrons were being decimated, the survivors making desperate last stands over populated areas. A young pilot sacrificed himself to protect a shield generator in Kenya. A team of engineers in Peru worked to repair a pulse cannon, even as swarm entities closed in around them. In hospitals worldwide, the wounded poured in faster than they could be treated. When Dr. Kim's broadcast was ready, nearly a third of Earth's surface had been touched by the swarm. Millions were dead or missing. The remaining shield generators were operating well beyond their safety limits. "Do it," ordered General Park, his normally stern face lined with exhaustion and grief. Dr. Kim initiated the broadcast, sending humanity's entire existence, its struggles and triumphs, its beauty and ugliness, its love and hatred, directly into the quantum consciousness of the void swarm. For 12 terrifying hours, the swarm hovered motionless. No new attacks came, but the entities already on Earth continued their advance. In the control center, no one spoke. They watched the displays, counting down the minutes until the remaining shield generators would fail. Commander Lee, trapped on the damaged Aegis with what remained of her crew, sent her final report. "Whatever happens, remember, we did not go quietly." All across Earth, people prepared for what seemed like the end. They held loved ones close. They fought when they could and hid when they couldn't. They saved who they could and mourned who they couldn't. As the 12th hour approached, Dr. Kim watched the readings from the swarm. The quantum fluctuations had become erratic, almost chaotic. "Something's happening," she whispered. The darkness above Earth began to shift, to writhe as if in pain. The tendrils attacking the shield suddenly withdrew. Around the world, the ground-based entities stopped their advance, trembling like leaves, in a wind no one could feel. And then, to everyone's astonishment, the void swarm began to retreat. Nobody could believe their eyes at first. The great darkness that had blotted out the stars was pulling back, retreating from Earth like an ocean. Tide, on screens across the planet, people watched in stunned silence as the void swarm contracted, its tendrils withdrawing from the atmosphere, from the ground, from everywhere they had spread. "Are they leaving?" someone whispered in the Geneva control center. Dr. Kim stared at her readings, afraid to hope. "The broadcast is still going, they're still receiving it." For 3 days, the world held its breath. The swarm hovered at the edge of the solar system, neither advancing nor fully retreating. Military forces remained on high alert. The damaged shield generators were repaired as quickly as possible. No one dared declare victory. On the 4th day, the swarm vanished completely, jumping to some distant part of space beyond their sensors' reach. Only then did the cheering begin. It started in small pockets: a research lab in Tokyo, a bunker in Cairo, the remains of the Aegis station, and spread across the globe. People poured into streets, embraced strangers, wept openly. Church bells rang, prayer calls sounded, drums beat, Earth had survived. The celebrations lasted a week, but the work of rebuilding began immediately. The damage was extensive, entire cities destroyed, landscapes altered, millions dead or injured. Yet amid the rubble, determination bloomed. "We faced extinction and prevailed," the Secretary-General said in her address to the reformed United Nations. "Now we rebuild, not just what was lost, but something better." Dr. Kim spent weeks analyzing the data from the encounter, trying to understand why the swarm had retreated. She worked from a small office in what remained of the Geneva Control Center, surrounded by charts and readings and empty coffee cups. "I think it was our minds," she explained to General Park when he visited. He moved more slowly now with a cane, an injury from the final days of the battle that he brushed off as nothing compared to what others suffered. "Our consciousness, our messy, contradictory emotions and our fierce will to protect one another was incomprehensible to them," she continued. "Maybe even toxic. They're a hive mind with a single purpose. We're billions of individual minds, each with countless conflicting thoughts and feelings." The general nodded slowly. "So we poisoned them with our humanity." "In a way," she smiled, "our greatest weakness turned out to be our greatest strength." The theory gained credence 6 months later, when a new alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit. Unlike the elegant vessels of the Myriad, or the formless mass of the Swarm, this ship was rough and practical, clearly built for function rather than beauty. Humanity's response was immediate and coordinated. The newly rebuilt defense systems activated. Fighter squadrons launched. The shield generators powered up, but the visitors made no aggressive moves. Instead, they sent a simple message in multiple human languages. "We come to talk, not to fight." They called themselves the Dissidents, representatives of 7 species who had broken away from the Galactic Council's protection over disagreements with their policies. They had been monitoring the conflict from afar. "We watched as you were abandoned," their ambassador told the hastily assembled Earth delegation. "We watched as you fought. We did not think you would survive. No species ever has once the Council deems them expendable." Dr. Kim studied the ambassador, a being with 4 eyes and skin like burnished copper. "Why didn't you help us?" "We do. Not have the Council's resources," the ambassador replied simply. "We believed intervention would only delay the inevitable. We were wrong." The dissidents proposed a true alliance of equals, not the hierarchical structure of the Council, but a cooperative where each species contributed according to their strengths, and they wanted humanity to take a leadership role. "You have proven yourselves unique," the ambassador explained. "In all our recorded history, no species has ever driven back the Void Swarm alone." In the months that followed, Earth began a careful diplomatic relationship with the dissidents. They shared technology more freely than the Myriad ever had, including faster-than-light travel capabilities that the Council had deliberately withheld. They were keeping us trapped in our solar system, General Park realized, making sure we couldn't spread too far. Recovery continued on Earth. New cities rose where old ones had fallen. Memorial gardens bloomed where battles had been fought. Children born after the invasion grew up on stories of heroism and sacrifice. And work began on humanity's first truly independent interstellar vessel, not built with borrowed technology or under alien guidance, but designed and constructed by human hands, with human ingenuity at its core. They named it the UES Defiance. 2 years after the Swarm's retreat, the Defiance was ready for its maiden voyage. Commander Lee, her face now bearing scars from the battle aboard the Aegis, was appointed its captain. Dr. Kim joined as Chief Science Officer. General Park, though officially retired, served as strategic advisor. The launch was broadcast worldwide. People gathered in homes and public squares to watch as humanity took its first independent step into the wider galaxy. "Our destination is the Galactic Council's headquarters," Commander Lee announced before departure. "Not to seek revenge or admission, but to show them who we truly are, a species that will forge its own path among the stars, with or without their blessing." As the Defiance prepared to depart, Dr. Kim stood at the viewport, watching Earth grow smaller. She thought of all they had lost, all they had learned, all they had become. A young officer approached her, holding a small potted plant, Earth's first living ambassador to the stars. "Do you think they'll respect us now?" the officer asked. "Doctor," Kim smiled, touching a leaf of the plant gently. "They'll have to," she said. "We're not the same species they abandoned. We're stronger now. We know what we're capable of." As the Defiance activated its engines and jumped into the darkness between stars, humanity's message to the cosmos was clear. We stood alone against the void, and we survived. We will never be expendable again. Back on Earth, in classrooms and living rooms, the story was already becoming legend, how humanity faced extinction and emerged not just alive but ascendant. And in the vast chambers of the Galactic Council, word was spreading of the strange, fractious species from a blue planet, who had done the impossible, the species who had looked into the void and forced the void to blink first.